Hello everyone. In this lesson, we're going to learn how to set up one of our user accounts as an admin or moderator user, and they should have permission to update and delete anyone's blog posts. Let's jump into the action and let me explain. Cool, so here I'm logged in with the Brad user account, and imagine if we wanted this account to be sort of a moderator, and if someone posted something inappropriate, this user account should be able to delete or update anyone's blog posts. So in this window, I'm logged in with Barks a Lot, and imagine if I create a post, a Barks a Lot post, and then something inappropriate, and then I go ahead and save that. Cool, a post by Barks a Lot. And then if I visit this URL in the window where I'm logged in as the Brad user, well, notice the Brad user, obviously, they don't see the edit and delete icons because they're not the author of this post. So what we're going to set up in this video is a way to go into the database and say that, hey, the Brad user should be marked as an administrator or a moderator. And then we can adjust our policy based on that. And then magically, that user would be able to update and delete anyone's posts. Let me explain what I mean. So if you go into your database and look at your users table, so I just have the Brad account and the Barks a Lot account, but imagine if there was another column and we could name it anything. We could name it is admin or is moderator. And then if you're not a moderator, by default, it could have a value of 0. If you are a moderator, it could have a value of 1 to be true. So to be clear here, we're just making this up. Laravel doesn't natively have this concept of a moderator or an admin. But the idea is that if you and I take matters into our own hands, right? If we go into the shape of our database and we set it up so that you can mark specific users as an admin or moderator, well then the power of policies in Laravel make it really easy to make all of this happen. So what we need to do right now, our first step is to add that new column to the users table so that we can spell out which one of our users should have admin privileges. Now, there's several different ways you could do this. You could, in your database folder, go into migrations, and then you could look inside the file that's named create users table, and we could just add another column and name it something like is admin. However, let's imagine that our website is not brand new and still under development, and imagine that we're actually working on this with like 5 other developers, and they've got the source code on their local computer, and maybe we've already even pushed our application up to a live server. In that case, it's not like we can just build the database from scratch on the live server. So let's practice adding a new column to an existing table, right, in a sustainable way where your coworkers could keep up with you and you could easily sync the live server with your local development changes. So here's what you would do. You would create an entirely new migration to add that column. Let me explain. So open up your command line and we would just run php artisan make :migration, and then give it a name. Let's say add _ is admin to users table. And then if we add a flag of -- table equals and then users, Laravel will even fill in a bit of extra boilerplate code for us so that it's already pointing or referencing the users table. So check this out. Go ahead and press enter. And now in our database migrations folder, we have this brand new file. So it'll have a timestamp, but its name is is admin to users table. And now check this out. If you go down and look at the up function, beautiful. It's already written the boilerplate code for us, so watch how easy it is to work with that table. In the body of this function, we would just say $table, and we want to create a Boolean, right? Like a true or false value, right? Are you an admin or moderator? Yes or no, true or false. So let's name the column is admin. There's nothing special about this name. It could be anything. This is just what I'm choosing. And let's say that it should have a default value of just 0, right? To represent false. By default, you're not a moderator. Cool. And then down in the function that's named down, this would be if you wanted to roll back a migration. In here, in this function, I would just say, $table, look inside that, call drop column, semicolon, and the name of the column you want to drop is just is admin. Cool. Let's save this, and now we just need to tell Laravel to run any new migrations that haven't already been ran. So you just go into your command line and type php artisan migrate. As soon as you run that, if you go back into MySQL and refresh the view for your users table, cool, notice on the right-hand edge, you might need to scroll over if your window's small like mine, but notice there's this new column called isAdmin. Now, by default, both of my users, Brad and Barks-a-lot, have a value of 0. Right now, let's set, maybe you don't have a Brad user, but whatever your username is, let's set that user to be an admin. So I would just double click on this cell in MySQL Workbench, and just instead of 0, set it to 1, push enter, and then down in the bottom corner, the bottom right, click apply again. You can click close. Cool, so now we've marked that user as an admin. Now, that doesn't do anything. This doesn't mean anything to Laravel inherently, but the idea is that now that we're permanently storing this, it's super easy to go adjust our policy. And this is a great example of why policies are so powerful. Check this out. All we need to do is go into our post policy file. So if you Control or Command P for post policy.php, and remember there's the function of update and then there's the function of delete. Well, check this out. Remember you return true or false if the current user should be able to perform that action on the current post. Here's what I would do for the update function. Right above this return, you could just say, if parentheses, curly brackets for the condition, I would just say if the current user, look inside that for the property of isAdmin, if that, triple equals 1, then that means they are an administrator. So then just return true. Now, there are probably 50 or 100 different ways that you could write this same logic. So you could instead add on to this condition and say, or, if the user is admin. Right, so this was just my personal preference. There's a million different ways to organize this true or false status. But the idea is, if you're an admin, no matter what, I want this function to return true. You should have permission to update any and all posts. I would just do the same thing. So copy and paste these 3 lines down in the delete function, right? So just paste that in. Let's give that a save. And now if you refresh on this screen where I'm logged in as Brad, awesome. Even though this post is by Barks-a-lot, I can see the edit and delete icons. And it's that simple. That's all we need to do, because remember, the rest of our code is already using that can and cannot language, right? We're saying if the policy says that this user can blank this post. So we don't need to do anything else. I am free to make an edit. I can view this edit form, and if I scroll down, I can submit this edit form. Awesome. I can go back. If I wanted to, I could even delete it. And then if you go to the Barks-a-lot profile, you can see that post is gone. Cool, and just to make sure that we didn't accidentally mess things up so that even the Barks-a-lot user can edit Brad post, if I take this URL and visit it in the Barks-a-lot window, cool, they don't have permission to edit anyone's posts, only the admin or moderator user. Cool, so this is just another reason why I love policies. We updated this in one location to support, our isAdmin column, and it was that easy. The rest of our entire application uses the can and cannot policy verbs. That's all we need to do. Cool. Now in our next lesson, we're just going to do one more thing before we change gears and start letting the users upload their own avatar photos. I'm sure you're excited to get to that feature, but just one more detail before we get to that. What if we wanted to set up, special top secret URLs that only admin users should be able to visit? Well, there's a million different ways you could set that up, but probably one of the best ways would be to use something in Laravel called a gate. So in our next lesson, we're going to learn what in the world is a gate, how does it relate to a policy, so on and so forth, right? And we're going to set up secret URLs that only admins can visit. Let's keep our momentum rolling, and I'll see you then.